Am I the a-hole for not telling my ex-wife that we lived in a rental apartment? Hi. Back in 2008 when I started university, I rented a 2-bedroom apartment with my ex-girlfriend at the time and my friend and his girlfriend. We got a great deal for it, as the owner of the place lost his job because of everything that happened back then and decided to try her luck abroad where she still lives. Years went by and after university my friend and his girlfriend decided to find a place of their own. As we had full-time jobs, renting this apartment together did not seem expensive anymore, and also did not seem expensive to rent alone after we broke up some time later. So there I was, alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in the central part of the city. The owner decided that she was too lazy to mess with bills and stuff every month and made arrangements for me to pay everything directly. As I earned her trust, I still pay her monthly rent, which is very cheap for today, and deal with everything else having her authorization. Because of the perfect location, my second bedroom was basically free B&B for my friends who did not live in the city, and I did not mind. It is good to have company if you live alone. In 2020 I met a girl who was in a rush to get married, and as I was madly in love we did in 2021. For some reason, I never told her the story of how I rented the place or that it was a rental at all. It just never came up. I have been so used to the fact that I am an authorized representative with building cooperative things etc., that I refer to it as my place. Our relationship started to cool down and we found out that we were not perfect for each other after all, so divorce it is. So we did the paperwork for divorce and she is moving out. A few days ago I received an email from her with a real estate valuation document as an attachment. While I was not at home she wasted €500 for someone to evaluate an apartment that does not belong to us, and wrote that I probably have to take a loan to pay her the 50% of that. I replied to her, didn't I ever tell her that this place is a rental? Why does she even assume that I can afford a 2-bedroom apartment in the city center? She knows where I work and how much I earn. She called and screamed at me that I had lied to her for years and hid the fact that the apartment was rental. Then she tells me that, well, she will take the car as we got that together. And I was quiet for a moment and then told her, you do know that is a lease, right? The owner of the car is the bank. Then she demanded that I pay for the valuation and I replied, I did not ask you to do it. She called me an a-hole and ended the call. Of course, she told our whole friends group how I lied to her during the whole marriage, and there was a discussion in a messenger group with friends that if is it a lie or not, whether was it an a-hole thing to do. Some agree with me and some with her. My best friend told me that this is a perfect topic for a Reddit thread. Now I ask you Reddit, am I the a-hole?
It's odd you didn't tell her, but also odd that it wasn't part of your conversation about life and who was paying for things and how and so on. Not the a-hole.
She did cover 50% of the utility bills, as she wanted to contribute. And it was no secret that I had been living there for a very long time. I just never spelt it out that this is rental. I think she assumed I owned it because we did some maintenance there together that you normally don't do in a rental, changed the wallpaper in the living room and got a few appliances when old ones broke down.
Not the a-hole. Sounds like you got out of it at a good time, and always fun to read greedy people getting screwed over more.
Would she have been entitled to half the apartment if you'd owned it? I'm curious because when she met you, you already owned it. Wouldn't it have been a premarital asset? How does division of assets work during a divorce in Finland?
Not the a-hole. I wonder why she was in such a rush to get married. Was her plan all along to get married and then take you for half of everything after a couple of years?
Yeah, it sounds really suspicious, also getting the evaluation behind his back. Although I guess a real gold digger would have done that earlier, so then knew what they were getting.
She is a gold digger, just not a good one.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to discuss my daughter's name with my family because they want me to change it? I, 29 female, gave birth to my daughter, Sloane, 14 weeks ago. My husband, 30 male, and I didn't announce her name until she was born. The reason for this is because I knew my family didn't like the name Sloane and would spend their time trying to talk us out of the name. I know this because I started loving the name Sloane when I was a kid. There was a girl in my class from 1st to 3rd grade, and I told my family at the time I thought her name was really cool, and they told me it wasn't, and my parents said it wasn't even a real name. I brought it up a few times, but I remember the negativity. I even remember my mom pitying her because of it. When I was 14, she even brought her up and told me she bet Sloan was going by her middle name or a nickname by then. She moved schools after 3rd grade, so I didn't see her. When I was 16, one of my friends transferred schools after a move and mentioned Sloan was in her class and still used Sloan. I rubbed it into my mom's face so hard. But she told me it was still an ugly name and she felt bad for the girl who had to have it as her name. My parents prefer names like Anna, James, Elizabeth, William, and Hannah, which are my siblings and my names. They think those are sophisticated and classic and easy to use through life. They don't think Sloan's a kid's name. Just not a real name and so ugly. I was lucky that my husband loved the name, and when we talked baby names, he said we could name a daughter Sloan. He also knew how my family felt, so he was on board with keeping the name to us until our daughter was here. You might think that the name being official and on the birth certificate would deter any negativity on the name. But since my daughter's name was announced, my family have wanted to sit and discuss the name. They said they never believed I would seriously carry on and name my daughter Sloan. I shut them down and told them I did, and that was that. I have refused to discuss it more. I ignore them via text if I have to or end calls. I left my sister's house just a week ago because they tried to bring it up. They told me it's childish to run away from a serious discussion. I said we have nothing to discuss, that my husband and I had our discussion on the name, and that was the only one that needed to happen. They told me a part of being a family is hearing each other out, and I'm being childish by refusing their requests. Am I the a-hole?
Not the a-hole. They told me a part of being a family is hearing each other out. They sound utterly insufferable. Start nicknaming each one of them words that rhyme with Sloan to their faces, because you can, and there isn't a thing they can do to stop you.
They can be kinda insufferable at times, but this is them at their worst.
Tell them suck it up Buttercup, cause her name is Sloan and none of them actually get a say. Naming a baby is the parents' choice only. Granny, grandpa, uncles and aunts don't have to like it.
And tell them if they say anything negative to her as she's growing up about her name, they lose the chance to get to know her. 'Cause if they're this insufferable now, I have a feeling it will continue as Sloan grows. Those same comments made to you about your friend Sloan's name will now be directed to your daughter.
Not the a-hole. Part of being family is respecting and supporting each other. Tell them that Sloan is a cool name. It's uncommon for a girl and distinctive. Hey, you always remembered the girl from school, didn't you?
Yep, and so did they, even though none of them ever met her, LOL.
It makes me think of the girlfriend in Ferris Bueller. I'd tell them you'll give them one chance to say what they want to about the name. Sit, and don't say anything, let them talk themselves out. Then say, thanks for your opinions, they have been taken under advisement. We're going to decline to change our daughter's name. Bye.
I have a fairly unique name that's gender neutral, and when I was born my aunt told my parents they were making a mistake. She recanted a few years later and agreed she can't see any other name fitting me as well as mine does. I hope with time your family comes to love the name.
I'm glad your aunt came around to your name.
My dad's side of the family did not like my name when they were told. They asked my mom what everyone was going to call me and she said my name. They asked again and my mom said, if you want a relationship with my daughter you will call her my name. If you don't want a relationship with her, you can call her whatever you want. Funny enough, after that, they all thought my name was beautiful, or at least that's what they were saying. I know it's kinda harsh, but your parents may need to be put in their place, the same way my dad's parents needed put in theirs. A lot changes when the option of not being part of their grandchild's lives is the only option if they refuse to respect the name you've chosen.
What do you think of these stories? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos.